Hi guys, we're at this really awesome site here in Ashdod, right near the entrance to the city. It is a park and a memorial site called Ad Halom, and it's been an important part of Israel throughout history. Ashdod is one of 5 cities that is controlled by the Philistines in biblical times, and in the 13th century it is going to be under the control of the Mamluks, a group of people who were trained as the best soldiers in the world. And they come and they take over. When they're 18, they convert to Islam and then continue being those soldiers that were so well trained. We are on top of one of the bridges that they built here in Ashdod during their time controlling the land in the 13th century. And at the end of the 19th century, when the Ottomans out of Turkey and Istanbul come and take over this land, they're going to rebuild this bridge. And it's going to stay that way until the British come and take over. And the British are also going to use this area to help with transportation, trade, things like that, because there's the riverbed that we're standing over, the Lachish riverbed. But jumping forward to 1947, this takes a whole new chapter, and this is what is so exciting about this area. It has a very special and important story and role in the War of Independence. In 1947, the British, who still have their mandate over the land of Israel, decide that they can't keep the peace anymore, and they ask the United Nations for help. They come, the United Nations, and they look around and they come up with an idea called the partition plan. On November 29th, it gets passed, and the next day, a war breaks out. Now, it's a civil war, it's only between the people living within the mandate, but on May 14th, 1948, David Ben-Gurion and his friends declare independence of the first modern state of Israel. The next day, May 15th, 1948, a war breaks out between Israel, the new state, and the other countries around them. They're neighbors of Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, attack them at the same time, and it is here that one of the most important stories takes place in the War of Independence. Okay, so we're almost at the memorial, but before we do, there's one structure that we're going to see there that we have to understand its importance. In 1933, the Arabs of the land revolt against the British, and they have large protests throughout the country. They're protesting the Jewish immigration here, the British mandate, take over the control by building pillboxes throughout the land, and we will see one of them here today in our story. So let's explore the story of 1948 and the battle between the Egyptians and Israelis here in this very spot. Okay guys, we're now at the site where the battle between the Israelis and the Egyptians actually take place. And so what happens is something like this. In May of 1948, the Egyptians have come up the coastline of Israel, and they stop here. Why do they stop here? Because they're ahead of schedule, and they're waiting for the Jordanians and the Lebanese and the Syrians and the Iraqis to catch up with them. So they decide to wait here, but it was a big mistake because the Israelis hear that they've stopped here, hear that they're waiting, and they send the beginning of the Israeli Air Force only four Avia S-199 planes. They send them, they attack the Egyptian troops here. Eddie Cohen, who's one of these 4 pilots, is shot down, and he becomes the first casualty of the Israeli Air Force. The next step is a group of Givati soldiers who are coming, and we can see their memorial plaque here. Givati soldiers come, they blow up the bridge, and they stop all ways for the Egyptian soldiers to leave, to attack. So now they're forced to wait here, and the Egyptians are stuck. The largest and the strongest military in the Middle East has nowhere to go, the only other option for them is to rely on the Egyptian troops that are heading towards Jerusalem and not towards Tel Aviv. And so they have to wait here. And they're stuck here until the Operation Yoav, the Israeli forces, come yet again and stop them and start pushing them back towards Egypt. And on October 28, 1948, the British leave Ashdod and they leave the Lachish riverbed and head back towards Egypt. And what has happened is really something incredible. A young, small, inexperienced army has stopped the largest army in the Middle East, and they stop it here. Without it, and without this attack, the Egyptians would have reached Tel Aviv, which, as we can see on this map here behind me, is about 60 miles, maybe a little bit more, to the second largest city in the country, the city of Tel Aviv. The city and its residents owes a huge deal to this operation because Ashdod and the forces of Israel, however young, have stopped it. Have stopped the attack on Tel Aviv in 1948. We can see here a map of the different distances from Ashdod to the different towns in the area. Gan Yavne is about 10 miles away. Rehovot is about 26 miles away. And here we have Tel Aviv, which, as I mentioned, is about 60 miles away from the city of Ashdod and the Ad Halom riverbed and bridge. After the war, this area and the bridge was called Ad Halom, which means in Hebrew, until here. And it remembers that the Israeli forces says you can come until here and no further. And this is where they stopped the Egyptians. And here we see the names of the soldiers who gave their lives in the battle, sacrificing the biggest sacrifice they can offer the state of Israel, giving their lives for a free and independent country. I'd like to take this time to remember the 4 pilots, although all of them did not pass in this war. They are Louis Latin, Ezra Weitzman, Eddie Cohen, and Moody Alon. They're the 4 pilots who came and fought in the Battle of Ad Halom. One of the most amazing things that happened in connection to Ad Halom and its story is that in 1979, Israel made peace with what was called its biggest enemy, the state of Egypt. And one of the terms of the peace agreements in 1979 was the ability to create 2 memorials for the Egyptian soldiers who died within the state of Israel. One of them is built here, the memory of the Egyptians who were killed here in the battle, and another one is within a different site within the state of Israel. And that's, I think, something truly amazing to memorialize the soldiers of another country here within Israel. And it's something really very special. I would like to show you that memorial here in Ad Halom. So let's go, and I would like to invite you to that memorial. So let's go and see it. Hi guys, this is one of the special parts of the site. It is a site that remembers the Egyptian soldiers who fought here at this battle. It is only one of 2 places in the entire state of Israel that remembers foreign soldiers who fought here against the state of Israel. So it's something very special, and it's something that I'm really excited to show you. A very special memorial, and so let's take a look. So what makes this memorial so special? I've said it a couple times that it's great. Why? Besides the fact that it's one of 2 memorials for Egyptian soldiers in Israel, it is a pillar with 4 sides, and there are 4 different sort of languages or ways of communication rather that are on this pillar. One of them is Arabic. That makes sense. They speak Arabic in Egypt. One of them is Hebrew, which makes sense because Hebrew in Israel. The third one is English, which makes sense because it's an international language. Many people speak it around the world. And the fourth one is one that you might not think of. But when we take a moment to break it up, this one is hieroglyphics. Now, why does that make sense? It was a written language in ancient Egypt, and so it connects to the ancient history of Egypt. And really, you can make a lot of different arguments of why it connects to the history between Egypt and Israel together. And those hieroglyphics are here on this side, right up here. And you can see sort of a hieroglyphic sun on the top of the pillar. That's probably my favorite aspect of the monument. And the scene here that we have today. I want to take a moment to remember the battle, the Israelis who gave their lives to the state of Israel, and the site that we have here today. We have remains of the original bunkers behind me, over by those bushes over there. It's not an easy battle, and it was not an easy war, but in the end, I think that it was the price we had to pay to have a wonderful, amazing state of Israel. So I want to wish everybody a great rest of your day, and to have some time to think about the meanings of sites like this. So until next time, we'll see you later.